What's happening? A good Monday to all of you. Thanks for joining me as always. It is very much appreciated. Recorded version of the podcast today. Last second schedule change. I'll be on 98.5 The Sports Hub today and NBC Sports Boston with Leroy and Cerrone from 2 to 6. Greg Bedard will also jump in from 4 to 6. So I wanted to get this done, get this content out to you. First, before we get into the game from Saturday, which was an abomination, and I'm going to focus more on where the Patriots go from here rather than the game. But before we get into that, big news yesterday. The Giants lost. No, they won. I'm so used to saying the Giants lost. The Giants beat the Colts. And because the Giants won the game yesterday, a lot of fans feel like that was a loss. The Patriots now have the number 1 pick in the draft. If they lose on Sunday to Buffalo, and that game will be a 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, if they lose to Buffalo on Sunday, they will have the number 1 pick. Nothing else can affect it. You lose on Sunday, you've got the first pick in the draft. The approach to that Buffalo game is going to be fascinating. I'm sure we'll get into that during Friday's podcast. All right. Man, oh man, the Patriots got outlined in chalk on Saturday against the LA Chargers. They got beat 40-7. An utter embarrassment, unequivocally awful. And we can stop talking about that first half in Buffalo. That was no doubt an anomaly. So let's just forget that first half of football against Buffalo. I said before this game kicked off on Saturday, we talked about it on the podcast Friday. How would the Patriots follow up? Would they make that game in Buffalo look like steady improvement, some kind of direction? Or would they fall right back to what they've been? And they fell right back to what they have been for most of the season. LA's not a very good football team. They're good. They're a playoff team, but they're not an excellent football team. That game was winnable. Cross-country trip, Christmas week, not the best weather, Justin Herbert's history against you, but none of that mattered. None of that mattered because the Patriots just aren't nearly good enough. They're not good enough talent-wise. They're not coached well enough. They are, for all intents and purposes, a dumpster fire practically week in and week out. And so it doesn't matter. I had somebody on Twitter reach out to me and say, Nick, I enjoy the game breakdowns, and I wish you did more of that later in the season. And while I understand that thought process, Saturday's game is why I don't dive as deep into the details as I had through the first 2-3 months of the season, because it doesn't matter. I can sit here and talk about pressure rate. I could talk about pass rush win rate. I can break down every scintilla of information. But what does it matter if you have a team look like they looked on Saturday? It doesn't matter who the opposition is. It doesn't matter what you can do well or not do well. None of it matters. Previewing a game and breaking it down and acting as if it's a normal situation, I think would be incredibly disingenuous. So I do still give you some nuggets. I still give you some quick hits about the game and preview what you can expect to see. But as far as doing a 35, 40-minute breakdown, top to bottom, with a 3-13 football team that can't get out of its way, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. And things have to change. Things have to change. If you didn't feel like things had to change before Saturday, I would love to know if that changed after watching what happened on Saturday. And if it didn't change on Saturday, I'd love to know why. Because what you saw on Saturday was ridiculous. It was absolutely inexcusable. Something has to change. People are talking about, well, Gerard Mayo was set up to fail. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. Year one, lack of experience with the staff. The talent isn't very good on this football team. I understand the idea that Mayo was, expected to fail this year. This team was expected to be bad. I picked them to win 5 games. But it's not about the W's and L's. We've said this all year long. It's about improving. It's about showing a direction. It's about showing at least a level of competence that gives you confidence going into 2025. Have we seen any of that? I haven't. I have not seen it. It's time for change. It's time for significant change. If I'm Robert Kraft, I'm on the phone right now, and I'm trying to bring Mike Vrabel into New England. It's a tougher sell to me if you bring in an unknown, even a Ben Johnson, but I am now open-minded to having that conversation because of how bad it's been. And the final straw to me was Saturday against the Chargers in the Drake May decision. 6 minutes, 14 seconds left. You're down by 30 points. Earlier in the game, Drake May took a shot, left, was tested for a concussion. Now he came back. He was cleared. Okay, good. But why in the world, after seeing Drake May take multiple shots in that game, after already having a concussion earlier in the season, you're down by 30 points with about 6 minutes left in the game. You have no chance in hell of coming back. Why in the world is Drake May out there taking hits? You have one single solitary top priority if you are the Patriots this year. It was to develop Drake May and make sure you handle him the right way. Leaving him in down by 30 with 6:14 left, week 17, staring down the barrel of a 3-13 record, it's irresponsible to have your franchise quarterback in the pocket playing that game. Irresponsible. That's utter incompetence. There's no other way to explain it. There's no other way to describe it, but absolute utter incompetence from Gerard Mayo. I have no idea how you allow May to be out there in that game. And even worse, you took out some of your starting offensive linemen, but you kept Drake May in. You took out Mike Owenu. But yet, somehow, even without the best offensive lineman out there to protect your young quarterback, you kept him out there. You felt like it was the right time to replace Mike Owenu, but it wasn't the right time to replace Drake May. Can somebody, anybody on God's green earth make sense of that? Because I can't. I cannot make any sense of that. And Gerard Mayo's post-game press conference made it even worse. He was asked why he left May out there, and he said, well, development of the quarterback. Are you kidding me? Development of the quarterback? 6 minutes left, down by 30? How is he going to develop? What is going to help him in that moment? What is he going to learn? Down by 30 and 6 minutes left. The development of the quarterback. That is a lazy answer. It's illogical. I mean, just brutal stuff. If somebody asked me, just point to one example why Gerard Mayo has certainly not earned the right for a year or two with his job, and I'm pointing to that decision with Drake May on Saturday. It was that egregious. It was that ridiculous. It was that nonsensical. If you can't protect the most valuable asset of this organization, then you don't deserve to be the head coach of this organization. And what's funny is the fact that you had Drake May out there with 6:14 left, down by 30. So you felt down by 30 with 6 minutes to go, it was worthwhile to keep Drake May into the game. However, when you were down by 33 with 4 minutes to go, about 2 minutes later, you felt like it was time to pull Drake May. So let me get this straight. It's okay to develop the quarterback and leave him in there down 30 with 6 minutes left, but it's not okay to do so down by 33 with 4 minutes left. What are we doing? Are you flipping a coin on the sidelines to make these decisions? Like, what are you doing? It makes no sense whatsoever. If you want to, and I would not accept it, obviously, you can tell by my tone. If you want to try to tell me that you want to develop the quarterback so you're going to leave him in the game like that, again, I completely and vehemently disagree with that notion. But if you're going to try to sell me on that, then you'll leave him in the game. Then you leave him in down 33 or 4 minutes left. Because what the hell is the difference down by 33 or down by 30 with 6 minutes left or 4 minutes left? There's no difference. This is basic fundamental stuff. They're calling a screen pass to Pop Douglas with like 1 minute left in the game, down by 33. What are we doing? Your best receiver all year long, your most productive or one of your most productive offensive players all year long, one of the only players right now that you have hope for moving forward, one of the young guys that you feel good about. He has a concussion history. He's a smaller player, and you've got him out there catching bubble screens down by 33 with about a minute left in the game. Alex Van Pelt, what are you doing? It's comical at this point. All right, I've got more. Don't forget, a couple things you can do to help out this program, to help out this channel, to help out this podcast. You're watching on YouTube. You click that thumbs up button. That will help us an awful lot. Click that thumbs up button. More likes means more eyeballs. It drives the algorithm. So don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment your thoughts on leaving Drake May in that football game down by 30 with 6 minutes left. How'd you feel about that? Like, comment, and subscribe. Trying to hit 5,500 subscribers. We're now past 5,100. We're getting closer. The goal was New Year's Day. That's obviously not going to happen, but it doesn't mean that we stop. We keep pushing forward. Like, comment, and subscribe. Spotify, Apple Pods, my friends over there, make sure you rate and review. Another situation that drove me crazy on Saturday, and another example of the incompetence of Gerard Mayo and his program, is the Ramondre Stevenson situation. Now, Stevenson fumbled last week, 7th fumble of the year. He was taken out for a series. He eventually went back in. All week long, we heard that Ramondre might be benched for Antonio Gibson. On Saturday morning, you have Gerard Mayo going on 98.5 The Sports Hub with Scott Zolak telling us that Antonio Gibson is going to start the football game. Not only that, Gerard Mayo told the TV crew in the production meetings that Antonio Gibson was going to start the game. When Ramondre Stevenson went out there to start the game on Saturday, Ross Tucker in the broadcast booth was shocked. Here's what he said, quote, "That's what we were told when we met with the team yesterday. They said Gibson was going to get the start because they wanted to send a message about accountability and about how important ball security is," unquote. So they talked to the television crew on Friday. They had the production meeting on Friday. Gerard Mayo tells Ross Tucker and the rest of the crew during that production meeting, we are going to start Antonio Gibson. We're going to start him because we want to send a message about accountability and ball security. What happened to sending that message? What happened? You went from wanting to send a message to not sending a message. What happened? You did the interview with Scott Zolak on Saturday morning. You kicked off at 1 p.m. What happened? Why did it go from we're starting Antonio Gibson to you starting Ramondre Stevenson? And then Stevenson only got 2 carries. So what the hell was the point of even playing him? If he's going to get 2 carries, you might as well just set the example and say we're benching you for the entire game because you can't stop fumbling the football. We're 3-12 going into this football game. It doesn't matter if we have Ramondre Stevenson or not. We're going to bench him to set the example. But they didn't. He starts the game after telling radio and TV that Gibson would start. And then Gibson in the locker room in the postgame tells everybody that he was never told he was going to start. What is happening? What is happening? Might have got a little loud right there with the what's. Sorry if I did. Like, what is happening in that building? What is happening in the locker room? What is the communication process between your offensive coordinator and your head coach? Why are you not starting a guy, not starting a guy, starting a guy? Why are you telling people you're going to start somebody else and you don't start somebody else? You start the guy initially that you were going to start, but then you were going to whoa. This is incompetence, man. It's not about W's. It's not about L's. It's not about any of it. It's simple incompetence. Not having any idea what to do. The messaging, awful. The communication apparently just not there. There was a disconnect about who was going to start at running back. It's week 17, and you can't put the message together about who is going to start at running back and why they're going to start at running back. And even worse, you go out there and you say that this is about accountability. This is about ball security. And that's why Stevenson is not going to start the game. But then you start Ramondre Stevenson, which tells us there is no accountability. And it doesn't matter if you lose the football. Hooray. Keep fumbling. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. How about culture, right? Gerard Mayo sold us on culture. Culture. Guys continue to talk. Greg Bedard wrote this about the post-game locker room. Some players were questioning a lot after this game. Pop Douglas said the Chargers probably wanted it more. I feel like my 2 years I've been losing, and I feel like it's time to make a change. I'm just tired of losing for real, unquote. Daniel Quale said, quote, I feel like towards the end of the fourth quarter, some of the guys just give up, and some guys play to the end of the whistle, unquote. More from a Quale. Quote, to speak for myself, I've seen a lot of stuff out there. It feels like a lot of guys start giving up when things get hard, unquote. So Quale telling you that some guys on this team are quitting. They are straight up quitting. Pop's tired of losing. He wants change. Keon White, quote, if changes aren't made, then what are we doing? NFL is a production-based business. If we're not doing anything to change our production, what are we doing? Unquote. Culture. Sounds like great culture, right? Wide receiver room's been a disaster. Guys are pointing fingers at each other. You got players now coming out in the post game saying that guys are quitting. Culture. Undisciplined. Being cultured is to have some discipline, to fight for something, to have a philosophy, to have something to hang your hat on. What does this team have? They're undisciplined. They're lacking that culture. There's no life or urgency to their game. And I was told over the last several weeks, we were all told, Gerard Mayo is very likely to return unless things go off the rails, unless things are a disaster, unless we see a calamity. You tell me, since the bye week, how would you describe this football team? Would you say that we've seen a calamity? Was Saturday a calamity? To me, it was. Was the bye week a complete misuse of your resources and an opportunity to improve? Yes, it was. Was that Arizona game a disaster? To me, it was a disaster. You no-showed in Arizona. You had one good half of football against Buffalo, and obviously Buffalo just didn't care. They overlooked you because they smoked the Jets yesterday. That was clearly now more Bills than Patriots. And I hate, as I said in real time, I hate taking away credit from a football team. But after what the Patriots did yesterday, and after the second half against Buffalo, and after the Arizona game post-bye week, it's rather obvious that Buffalo walked into that game and they said, this is the Patriots. We're going to win. In the first half, they didn't take it super seriously. Second half, they played better, and they beat you. You had a bad second half against Buffalo. You had the no-show against Arizona, and you had the calamity against the Chargers. So if Gerard Mayo was safe, unless there was a disaster, unless it went off the rails, I would say it went off the rails. And Gerard Mayo should not be safe. Am I wrong? If that was the Kraft's way of looking at it, that this had to be really bad, I'd say it's been really bad. And I said this on Friday. This weekend doesn't mean anything. The Bills locked up the second seed. They're going to play their backups. Mitchell Trubisky's going to be out there. Week 18, if you beat Mitchell Trubisky, does that save Gerard Mayo's job? Stop it. Stop it. After what we've seen, a Week 18 matchup against a team that doesn't care, that's going to protect their best players, winning that game would be the end-all, be-all. Cut it out. It all came down to L.A. if you want to believe that, right? If you want to believe that Mayo had a chance, it came down to L.A. And you were humiliated at home. The only game in town. Everybody was watching you, and you got humiliated. They haven't improved. They're not competing. Tons of guys are regressing. An embarrassment at Gillette. Fans are booing. ESPN Stats and Info said that the Patriots had lost one game by 30+ at home this century. Think that was the Saints game that I went to last year? Yay. Just humiliating is the best word for it for the entire franchise. If you're Robert Kraft, you're sitting there, you're watching that bleep show on Saturday. How could you bring these guys back? How could you say we're going to... How? Ugh. How could you possibly watch that product against the Chargers and believe with any confidence that Gerard Mayo is going to figure it out in 2025, aside from blind faith? What tells you that? He has not improved at all during the year. The team has gotten worse. What would tell you that Gerard Mayo is just going to figure it out and be much better next year? And again, I'm not talking about the talent. We all agree that talent's not very good. Elliott Wolf failed this past offseason. I'm talking about, as I've talked about all year long, things that Gerard Mayo and the coaching staff can control. Culture, effort, fundamentals, in-game decision-making. Like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to help us out. Doesn't cost you any money. Takes very little time. Defensively on Saturday. Oh, that was good, huh? DeMarcus Covington doing another bang-up job. We talked about before the game, Justin Herbert, lowest completion percentage, lowest passer rating against the Patriots than any other team throughout his career. 4 interceptions going into Saturday, the most interceptions Herbert has thrown against any team that's not within the AFC West. You should have some kind of a book on Justin Herbert. He doesn't have a great receiver core. Ladd McConkey is very good. He's not great, at least not yet. The offense is not very explosive. They're averaging like 21 points a game. We went through all of it on Friday, right? Herbert goes out there and he lights you up. 26 to 38, 3 touchdowns, no picks. You're supposed to slow down Ladd McConkey. If there's one thing you got to do in that game, if you're DeMarcus Covington, it's to make sure that McConkey doesn't go off. He had 8 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The defense gave up 5.6 yards per play, which if you look at the NFL, that would be about 10th overall in the NFL for best yards per play. So they're ripping up chunks. And on 3rd and 4th down, you were hilarious. The Chargers converted 12 of 19 on 3rd and 4th downs combined. That is atrocious. It's embarrassing. It's inexcusable. It's horrific. It's hideous. You gave up 147 yards on the ground. 4 yards a carry. That included garbage time when you knew that they would run the football at least a decent amount. You kept playing man coverage, even though Christian Gonzalez left with a concussion and Marcus Jones is on the IR. 2 of your top 3 cornerbacks are not playing in this football game, but you keep playing man coverage. And then you try to bracket McConkey, and he just goes right through it because you can't execute it the right way. Disaster. Disaster. Absolute disaster. Offensively, not much better. Drake May, 12 of 22 for $117, a touchdown, no picks. If you take out the pop play, I'm gonna play a little Gerard Mayo game. If it wasn't for that Pop Douglas touchdown on a free play, your quarterback went 11 of 21 for 81 yards. It's like late season Cam Newton. Your offense was 2 for 10 on 3rd down. You're down by 20. You got like a 3rd and 2. You run the football at Antonio Gibson. Down by 20 on a 3rd down. You run the football. I ask you a simple question. I asked it a little bit earlier, but let me highlight it here. Let me underline it. Let me put it in bold. What has improved from week 1? Sometimes we just got to break it down to the simplest form. What have you seen improve with this football team since week 1? You could argue that week 1 was the best game of the season for this team. That's outrageous. This team has not improved. Drake May has improved. Del Pettis, undrafted free agent safety, has shown some improvement. Maybe you could say Kayshon Boutte, or maybe Kayshon Boutte just got more opportunity this year. Who has improved? What is better about this team now than it was in week 1? Can somebody tell me? You might point to the offense and say the offense has gotten a little bit better. But in regards to Gerard Mayo, in the 10,000-foot view, the big picture, the program, what has gotten better? Guys are still talking. The execution still sucks. You're still not very competitive on a consistent basis or competitive at all. You don't look prepared. You don't look focused at all times. Your head coach has just made terrible decisions in game all year long. Icing on the cake was Mayo on Saturday. What has improved? I asked that simple question. Give me a reason. I feel like Tracy Chapman. Give me just one reason. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Right? Like, give me one reason, right? Give me one reason to stay here. Give me one reason why Gerard Mayo should turn right back around. Give me one that he can control. Give me a reason outside of pointing fingers at other people, just in a vacuum, individually. Give me a reason why Gerard Mayo should be back. What has he proved this year? How has he improved? What's his case? Outside of blaming Elliott Wolf and blaming the Crafts, which I get, those two entities, the Crafts deserve a lot of blame for the Fakakta process. Elliott Wolf deserves some blame for his offseason that wasn't good. I'm just talking about, if you're Gerard Mayo, the things that you can control. If you're going into the office and talking to Robert Kraft, what's your case? What are you saying? Without pointing fingers at other people and saying, we didn't succeed, I wasn't good enough because of, that guy or this guy or that. Introspectively, looking in the mirror, if you're Gerard Mayo, what can you point to? He was asked that question with the media this morning, and he said, we weathered the storm. You lost 40-7 against LA on Saturday. What storm did you weather? Because you didn't have a complete mutiny on your hands? That's why you should stay? That's what he pointed to. We were able to weather the storm after getting embarrassed and humiliated in front of his home crowd. That's what he said. That was his case. Why should anyone keep their job? My buddy Andrew Callahan, Boston Herald, wrote this. The Patriots are a laughingstock, an embarrassment, a doormat the Chargers of all franchises just wipe their feet on before waltzing into the playoffs without having to play their starters through to the end. Meanwhile, these Patriots are penalty-prone, selfish, unaccountable, and now most damning of all, they're quitters. Under Mayo, the Patriots coaches are stuck on a hamster wheel of failure, unable to complete the 4 basic tasks of their profession: motivate, organize, teach, and develop. Couldn't have said it any better myself, Andrew Callahan. And let me ask you this. Who is going to join this disaster? If you're a coordinator, you're a coach, you're a player, who is going to join this cluster bleep? Who is going to throw themselves at Gerard Mayo's feet as a free agent and say, I'm your guy, I want to play for your team? If you're a coach, why would you join this team? The only reason that I can come up with that, if you are a legitimate coordinator or a coordinator, quote unquote, prospect, the only reason you might take this job is because Gerard Mayo might get fired and you might become the next head coach of the New England Patriots. And do you want that? Do you want people taking the job because they think that Mayo's going to be out and they have a shot at getting the job? You don't want that. It's a mess. Absolute mess. Travis Shamockery. Don't forget to hit those thumbs. Like this podcast, like this channel. It helps us with the algorithm. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to throw in your comments as well. How do you feel about this now? Next week is just a waste, right? Outside of hoping that you hold on to the number 1 pick. Week 18 is not going to matter. You're going against Buffalo Bills backups. So how do you feel? Back on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, right here at this channel. Enjoy your New Year's. Be safe. Have some fun. And we'll talk to you soon. This has been the Nick Cattle Show.